It's known as the cowfoot. I bought it at the flea market. The fellow who was selling it was also selling a coffee table. And the legs of the coffee table were taxidermied shins of cow with the hair on and the hooves. And he had this axe. The different people at the flea market have different styles, and it's a lot of fun. And I talked to him. I said, I teach wood carving, and I teach wood carving with hatchets, and you and I both know I'm going to have this hatchet. This hatchet has been broken by being hammered against wedges, splitting wood, and repaired with a soft iron rivet, which is the rivet of the woodshed of the Yankee farm, the same rivets that hold the sections on the mowing machine and so forth. And the handle was just a stick of wood that was laying around, probably mahogany. And I said, but you know, I'm going to tell this story 100 times, so I have to pay you $1 for it. And he said, well, I'll take the $1. And so I bought this hatchet for $1. Notice I start way up high, and notice I'm working towards the back. I'm working away from the dorsal surface. You will never see the mark of my tool on the dorsal surface of this spoon. I'm always going to be away. That's known as the angle, and it takes a lot of students a long time to find it. Well, not a long time, but a while. And now, I call this dropping the handle. If you watch my right hand, you'll see my right hand's going lower and lower and lower. And here on this side, watch my right hand, and you will see it going lower and lower and lower. And if I got this right, I will wind up with a very thin edge. Here is my spoon, and now I have defined the end of the bowl. We need to know where the end of the bowl is before we know where the handle begins. To begin the handle, I'm going to go, these are my workshop tools, and to define the bowl, I'm going to want to carve in here and break it out. So I have chosen a thick axe. That is an axe with a thick bevel, an axe that has a thick bevel rather than a thin bevel. A thick axe turns, okay. A thick axe, we'll compare it, let's compare it with a thin axe, okay. You see the difference. A thick axe turns away. A thin axe goes straight. So by choosing a tool that wants to do what you want to do, I call this making a place. This glove is wearing out on me. I call this making a place. And sometimes you want to hit it 35 or 40 times. And the question is, how many times do you want to do this? The handle now is not too thin, is it? So I'm going to do this process as long as I dare, until the handle gets thin enough to sort of scare me. So now you're beginning to see, John, why I chose this spoon. There's more to it. And I can teach more, I can show more by using it. It's also a lovely spoon. Okay, here we are. One more time. Oh, one more time. Let me just trim a bit. I'll trim a bit later. I've finally gotten around to the back, so I can trim a bit up here. Okay. Careful. I didn't even check because I'm working evenly. The feel, this is, I mean, you can't operate this way until you've had some experience, but the feel is very important. And you know, a beginner will check it more often. But I don't want to check. I want it to be perfect, or I don't want it. So I'm going to run the process honestly and take what I get or lose it. And this is what I've gotten. And so far, so good.
So I'm going to throw out another question.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The concept of checking and perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You say you don't want to check it because you want it to be perfect.
Exactly.
So I would think just the opposite.
Yeah.
The more you check it, the more perfect you are.
Yeah.
The more you know you're moving towards perfect.
Yeah. No. I'm a Zen artist, and this is what we have. What question you've asked has elicited the meaning of Zen. So there it is. It's a very, very interesting spoon making. I think this spoon is for you, the user, but it is not for you. It is the gift of nature. And if you can make your peace with it, make a relationship with it, you have a good marriage. You have a relationship that is valuable, and it will be good for your soul as well as your soup. And the minute you start talking about this stuff, it goes downhill. But it was a very good question. When you're talking about this stuff before you know you're talking about this stuff, then you're getting it. Okay, so it only needs to be refined here, and we can do that with axe or knife. The process we're involved here, of course, is splitting is very effective. Bang, one hit, you've got the spoon. 2 hits. Chopping is less effective, but far more effective than carving. And so we're working from the, well, you can hear me what I'm saying. So let's try this knife. These, this knife has a story. This is I made this, but it's a Indian concept. Someday I'll tell the story of this knife. It will take a while, but it will make for a very good presentation. This I might have done before I started the handle. The more we can do here with a hatchet before we have to do this, the better. I'm not going to do a particularly thorough job here because I'm demonstrating and I want you to watch and not get bored. So just assume that I have smoothed this by this process. I'll get it as smooth as I have to before I do the next process. in a little more here. Notice I am working, I call this working inside the embrace. My hands are outside my work and I'm pulling towards my body. But what I'm doing, if you see the angle of the knife, I'm pulling the handle of the knife and allowing the blade of the knife to trail. So I'm pulling the handle right into my body, but the blade is not facing me. So I have power and safety and control to some degree. Okie dokie, let's stop that there. I would probably do more, but let's stop that like that. I'm just having this personal paranoid feeling that my audience is getting bored. Oh, listen to that. You hear that sound? Yeah. I once demonstrated for a grade school class, and of course, when you demonstrate for a grade school class, the next day they all send you thank you notes. And the entire class sent me drawings of frogs. It's what excited them, was that sound. This tool, which I call a plumper, is not a Western tool. It's not a Yankee tool. It's not a tool from my culture. This is a third world tool. All the wood carving done in the third world is done with what I call plumpers. And I'll show you some third world plumpers some other time. But all you need to do is stick a nail into a club and hammer the end to sharp, and you can bang away in hollow wood. But this is the way I prefer to hollow wood. And this is just a time saver. You don't have to. Now you remember I said when I split this out ages ago, you're probably getting tired now, you remember that I said, because I can't see this black flaw on the outside, therefore I must be able to dig it out. I must be able to carve below it and get it out of the bowl. So let's just see if we can. I'm working hard at digging that thing out. It goes down there quite a ways. And maybe I won't make it all the way before I'm done demonstration-wise. Getting down to a black spot. No fair digging it out. Got to keep the bowl even all the way through. It's getting pretty tight there. All right, let's call it good there. Well, not quite good. Okay. And the last carving is done with the bent knife. And I started before bent knives were available. the bent knife was unknown. It was known historically, but unknown as a common tool in the workshop. There were none available for sale. I had a few knife makers make them for me, but this one I made myself, and I forged that out of a straight razor, and got lucky. You know, the way a wood carver makes a knife is that you make 20 and throw away 19, and I didn't have to throw away that many, but this is the shape I found worked, and I started out with this and use it a lot still. And interesting thing about it is it can be reversed. You see how I'm reversing it here. You can reverse it. There's always one bad corner when you're shaving out a bowl. And I wonder where Asa put my glove. Let me see. Not that one. This one. And it's very handy sometimes to just work into the palm of your hand. So as you see, this has been repaired so many times. I can put it right here, see, and I can come at it like this. And I made this knife with no knowledge. And just last week, a friend of mine loaned me a contemporary woodworking magazine. And because there was this article about a fellow who was making spoons, and son of a gun, his knife was almost exactly this shape. So somebody else, a manufacturer, I had no idea where he is or where to buy him, but a manufacturer somewhere, I don't think this fellow didn't make his tools, discovered the same thing I did. That this is a very nice shape for a spoonmaker's bent knife. So if you want to make yourself one or find one in the catalog, that's essentially what you're looking for. I was interviewed one time in about 1974, and the fellow interviewing me described this blade in his finished piece as a breaking wave. I suppose you got it. I suppose that's pretty close. That's pretty close. So this is now ready to be dried, by which the term I use is fired, which I'll get into someday, but not today. And until then, it sits underground, and we hope underwater, and we hope the next processes will take that knot out, which of course it will because they don't see it here. So there's a good chance.